Well, hello, Stacey Murphy here, known to many as Brooklyn's Backyard Farmer, and it is my passion to remove any obstacles that stand between you and a successful vegetable and herb garden. Now, there are two main parts of being a successful vegetable and herb gardener. On the one hand, you have to know how to grow all the food. You have to seed and transplant and track the hours of the sun and take care of those baby plants, keep the pests away, all of that, right? And then on the other hand, once all the food is ready, you've got to know how to harvest it, bring it inside for maximum freshness, prepare delicious meals, and maybe even store it and preserve it for later. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So I have taught hundreds of teens in Brooklyn at the youth farm. I've taught them how to cook and store and preserve the harvest. And one of the things that we all recognize really quickly, because there's a whole lot of food coming off of that farm, is that if you don't have a system to figure out how to get all that food out of the field and onto the dinner plate, then a lot of it goes to waste. And I don't want that to be you. I want you to be able to really take advantage and get the most out of every little nugget that's coming out of your garden. I want you to enjoy and savor every little morsel. I would love that for you. It's really exciting when you can savor all those flavors throughout the year as well. So if you store them and preserve them, maybe it's cold outside, but you're having a nice stew that you created at the peak of the season, and in that stew are the peak flavors. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, is that system. It's really crucial. Now, I'm guessing you're a lot like every other gardener I've ever met, and that's that you want to really take advantage of everything coming out of your garden. And sometimes things don't grow in at the same time, which means that a recipe that you want to enjoy, you don't necessarily have all the ingredients at once, right? And this pertains to people, not just gardeners, but human nature in general. We tend to create the same recipes over and over and over, and that's because we've honed them to our taste buds. We like them. They become our favorites, and they become quick and easy because we know exactly how to make them. And so we make them again and again. And you know what happens? They become boring, and then we're looking for something else. And so what I would love for you is, instead of the question, what are we going to do for dinner, being kind of a downer because you're like, oh, what are we going to do for dinner and nothing is prepared? Instead of that, why not open up your pantry and see jarfuls of different concoctions, fermentations and cannings and pickles that you've created, you've preserved and you've stored throughout the year, so that when you go to make your dinner, you can put together a really creative menu based on things that came out of your garden. That would be exciting. And if you don't have a garden, go preserve the harvest from the farmer's market, right? That's going to be just as tasty. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, is my system for taking the garden harvest, specifically vegetables and herbs, and creating a really creative set of ingredients so that when it comes time to cook, I can just throw something together that is amazing. And it's all systematized. So it's a creative process, but it's also systematized. So I'm really excited. Today is the day that I'm opening enrollment for my class, which talks about preserving the vegetable harvest and storing it. And so this video, what I want to do with this video is walk you through the 10 principles of my system so that you can get a sense of whether this class is right for you. And then from there, you can take a deeper dive into the class. Okay, let's dive into the 10 essential principles of my vegetable storage and preservation system. So the first essential, it is so important and often very underrated. You want to harvest for maximum storage. So when you pick a vegetable, it's still alive, which means that if you pick it and it is underripe, it won't necessarily get the full flavor and full nutrient profile. And if you pick it overripe, it can go bad quickly. So you need to know how to harvest for maximum storage, and also what to do once you harvest it to ensure maximum storage. So that's a very important principle. So you want to know how to identify the ripeness of each of the vegetables that you're growing. And the good news about herbs is pretty much they're always ripe. So you can just go out and harvest them whenever you want, right? And now the second principle of my garden storage and preservation system is you want to match your harvest with your meal plan. So I do a crop plan at the start of the season. I plan so that not only am I getting a lot of food, but I'm actually planning each week what's going to come out of the garden so that I have a balance of leafy greens, dark leafy greens that are stiffer. So you might have your salad greens, but then you might also have your like kale and your collards, which are more sturdy, right? And then I have a balance with those, with let's say my root vegetables, things like carrots and turnips and onions, and also balanced with any kind of larger fruiting crops like tomatoes and eggplant and cucumber, and then as well as some specialty crops that are particular to whatever growing region I'm in. So I like to have a variety each and every week, and so that is a pillar, that's an essential of my system, is I plan out the whole season. Now, it's okay if you haven't done that. Your step, if you haven't done that, is to look at what's going to be ready every week based on maturity dates. So you look at when you seeded things, when you planted, look when they're going to be harvestable. And then each one of those weeks, you're going to look at what you can make from those ingredients or what you can preserve so that later you can make meals out of them. All right, so that's important. And it goes both ways, right? So if you didn't start with a crop plan, you can start to create what's going to come out of your garden each week. And then at the end of the season, when you start to notice, you know what, we had a lot of this one week and we had a lot of this another week, maybe you can change up your crop plan next year so that you have more of a variety each and every week. All right, so that's what we're going to go through in my longer class. It's something that I think is essential to a really good preservation and storage system, is making sure you have all the essential ingredients each and every week. My third principle of my storage system is to understand that creativity is only possible when you have a system in place. And so the idea is that if you can line up a sort of flow chart, a sort of process where you put in some variables and out comes something creative at the end that you might not have thought of otherwise, that's exciting to me because that creates recipes that I may not have otherwise tried. One example is that one time I realized that I was always making this juice recipe. It had a really beautiful flavor palette, and it was mostly vegetables. And then one day I realized I was going to an event and I had nothing to bring, and all that was in my refrigerator was these vegetables that I used to juice. And so I looked at them and I thought, well, if it makes a good juice recipe, maybe it'll make a good salad recipe. And I chopped them up, and it was a very unusual salad. Nobody quite expected it. And, you know, the flavor was the same as the juice, essentially. It was delicious. So this idea, what I have I have a flow chart that's part of my system where I basically input some things and what comes out are creative recipes. So to have a system in place means that you have to go with the flow a little bit, right? Because what comes out of your garden isn't always what you planned. So how do you creatively deal with that issue, right? Okay, the fourth essential to my storage and preservation system is that you have to make things visible. You have to make your process visual because if you don't see what you're doing and that you're actually doing it, you'll forget. You're just setting up good daily habits. So you're basically setting up ways to check off boxes so that you know you're taking care of the harvest each week. You know you're taking care of preparation each week so that your meals come with ease because you've already done all the necessary work. All right, so making things visible. You also want to see your equipment. So if I take my dehydrator and I put it on a shelf like way up high, do you think I'm ever going to want to get it down? No, it's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to put that right on my counter during the growing season, and I'm going to make sure that it's available and easy for me to do the work. The fifth principle of my vegetable storage and preservation system is to batch your work. So things go much more quickly when you do all the same things at one time. So if you have to every day pull out the cutting boards, pull out the knives, pull out the vegetables, chop them up, clean everything, put everything away, you're basically doing the same task multiple times throughout the week. Versus if one day a week you take and you harvest, and you then take all the vegetables that you've harvested and you prepare them for the week, and you prepare them for any food storage that you're going to do and any preservation you're going to do as well. Batch it all. That way you only have to set up once and you only have to clean up once instead of every day during the week. And think about this, if you're doing that twice a day for 2 different meals, then you're doubling the work. So by doing it all on one day, as much as possible, batching the food preparation, you're saving yourself so much effort. So with my system, that's what I teach is how to take the vegetable harvest into the kitchen and decide which vegetables are, let's say, they need to be used because they're overripe. So which ones you're going to cook, and then which vegetables you're going to preserve. They look beautiful. They look pristine. They're really going to withstand the preservation process. And then those are going to go through that processing and do it all in one day. The sixth principle of my garden preservation and storage system is my favorite one, and that's that many hands make light work. And you might be very familiar with this concept. So the idea is getting other people involved. And so this is especially easy if you're batching your work. You can get a lot of people involved because you're doing it all at once versus in little pieces here and there. So you can really gather people's attention and say, hey, let's do this all right now. Let's just take care of this. So we can go out, we can play, and we can have fun. And we don't have to worry about what's for dinner every day of the week because we got it covered, right? So that's going to be exciting for the whole family and any loved ones. And what's really cool about this particular principle, which you may not understand or you may not realize right away, is that this helps with picky eaters, because picky eaters generally, what's going on for them is they want to know what's in their food, and they want to create things that taste good to them. And so by having them help in the process, you're allowing them into the process, and they're more likely to eat the food. Kids who learn to cook are 10 times more likely to actually eat the food. And I've seen this firsthand. So two stories just to give you some ideas of what to do. The first is when we were making salads on the farm, there was this one guy, and he was like, yeah, they're okay, like, I'll eat it, but I'm a hungry boy, I'll eat it, but it's not that good, it's just some vegetables. And so I said to him, all right, well, you make a salad for us, and you show us what an awesome salad tastes like, right? And he's like, all right. And he stepped up to the challenge, and we had talked about what makes a good salad, that there might be something sweet in it, something spicy, something salty, something sour, and something bitter. And so he took that idea and he put together this amazing callaloo spicy salad that blew everybody away. And he ate it. He was like, this is the best salad in the world. And he was gobbling it down. He was so excited about it. And, we all loved it too. It was a little spicy for some of us, but it was delicious. And by allowing him to actually make the food, what we started to realize is that the reason that salads were boring to him is that he really loves spicy food. So by allowing picky eaters to create the recipes, you start to understand their taste buds. Their taste buds are not your taste buds. So if you're cooking for a family, you can't please everybody. But what you can do is alter things just a little bit here and there so that those picky eaters can, enjoy those vegetables, hopefully as much as you do one day. And the other funny picky story eater I have is that there was this girl, and we joked around that she was a cheesetarian because it was all she ate. And her mom was a little nervous because this girl wouldn't eat vegetables. And, unless basically it was cheese first and then everything else second. And so this mom came to me. I was like, oh, well, let's make a recipe and see what happens. And I said, what's your favorite dish? And she said, macaroni and cheese. And I said, cool, I can make macaroni and cheese. And so I picked a pasta that was made from beans, made from lentils. So that was her legume, right? And then basically I made the cheesy sauce with a Z, cheesy sauce. I made with parsnip, potato, shallots. What else did I put in there? Cauliflower, and a little bit of, all kinds of things like cashews, a little bit of mustard, a little bit of cayenne, made a little spicy. Put in all these amazing ingredients, plus all these vegetables, blended it up. It was bright orange because we put turmeric in it. And we poured it over the pasta, and we baked it, and we pulled it out of the oven. And we didn't really make much of it. We just said, hey, here's macaroni and cheese. And she looked at it, and she scooped it out. She put it on her plate, and she tried it. And we didn't make a big deal out of it, because that's the other thing. You can't make a big deal out of it. And we said, oh, what do you think? And she said, it's okay, it's good, I like it. She said, but it's not cheese. So it's pretty cool that we got her to eat something else. She definitely knew it wasn't cheese, but she ate the full plate and she enjoyed it. So the idea with picky eaters is to take those vegetables, and a lot of times you can blend them up because you can't actually see the vegetables. And as long as it tastes good, picky eaters will generally eat it. So that's another idea for some of those families who are dealing with picky eaters. So the seventh principle of my harvest, storage, and preservation system is to keep it simple. So if you're new to all of this, what you want to do is try one thing and then master that a little bit, then try another thing. Because what happens is that if we try to integrate all of this into our life all at once, we're going to get overwhelmed and we're not going to do any of it. So try one thing, try it a couple times until it becomes easy. That means that you've got it mastered. And then move on to the next thing and incorporate that into your process. So maybe you start with, let's say, freezing some food, or you start by drying some food. And then once you start to get the hang of it, you start fermenting and adding that into your process. And it's up to you which one sparks your creativity first. You can choose whatever you want to try first. Just try one thing at a time and then move on to the next one. And if you don't like that one thing that you tried, I would say try it twice just to see if you can make it better. But if you don't like it, skip it and go on to something else. And you don't have to do everything all the time. You get to choose, keep it simple, make it work for you. And along those same lines, principle number 8 on my list for my garden harvest storage system is that you want to pick technologies that are right for you. So if you have values around, well, I don't want to use power unless I can generate that power, then you might choose to not freeze your harvest because that's going to be something that requires a lot of energy and the power might go out. So it's up to you to choose the right technology for you. Only you know the answer to that. And so if you know that it's not the right technology for you, there are lots of ways to preserve and store that harvest. So just figure out which one works for you. Okay, so principle number 9 of my garden harvest storage system is to use your preserved food very creatively. And so this is what I want for you. I would love for you to go shopping in your own pantry. It's like, instead of going into the grocery store, and the garden is like your produce aisle, right? You go into the garden and you get anything that's fresh and you pull that into your kitchen table. But your preservation system is like all those aisles in between with all the canned foods, right? And the frozen foods. That's what you're creating. So wouldn't it be great to open up your pantry at home and creatively shop and put things together? So the idea is, not only do you need to know how to preserve things correctly, but when you go to reuse them, if you don't have a creative recipe to use them, they might not be so great. So if you just took, let's say, your green beans and you froze them and then you boiled them, a lot of people find that that's not that exciting on the palate, and that it's much better if it's sauteed in something or stir-fried in something or put into a soup. So finding creative ways to use what you've preserved is really important so that you actually enjoy the food a lot, you savor it, and that people around you have, just a delicious meal. Now, the 10th principle, this is important whether you're storing and preserving food or just in general, I think, is that you want your kitchen stocked for easy plant-based recipes. And that means having the right things around that you can just pull out and add into dishes to make them exciting. And there are staples that you can have around that you can use in so many different types of recipes. And once you stock your kitchen that way, then you'll love cooking, because whenever you want to cook, you're just going to be able to reach into your cupboard and grab whatever spice blend you want. Let's say you have chickpeas available dried, you can grind them into a flour. So there's all these different ways that you can have your pantry stocked so that when it does come time to cook dinner, if all you have is zucchini coming out of the garden, you have the 3 other things that can go into a recipe so that you can create something exciting. All right, so those are my 10 principles for my vegetable storage and preservation system. And the system is so crucial. It means that I take advantage of everything coming out of my garden. Nothing goes to waste. If you've ever thrown out something in the bottom of your refrigerator that you've grown in your garden, you know how heartbreaking that can be, right? So I don't want that to be you. I want you to have a system in place so that you take everything out of the garden, you either eat it fresh right away or you have a way to store it. All right, so I'm so excited to open up registration today for my brand new class. It's Preserving and Storing the Vegetable Harvest. And like the name implies, we're going to focus on basically taking the things out of the garden, specifically vegetables and herbs, and learning how to store and preserve them for later so that you can enjoy them even if they're out of season, or let's say you have a bumper crop and you just need a way to make sure they aren't going to go to waste. So that's what the course is about. I'm super excited, and I'm teaching this course because I keep getting questions from students that are all about how to harvest for maximum freshness and then what to do with all the extra harvest. So I thought I would share my system with you because I think that people can get a lot of value from this. I don't have a fancy sales page for all of this. What I do have, however, if you click on the Register Now button below this video, there is my secure checkout page, and on it, it lists what's included in the course. And I'm going to go quickly through that in this video so you know what to expect.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You've already heard the 10 principles of my food preservation system. So in this class, I'm going to walk you step by step through that system so that you know how to do everything from harvesting for maximum freshness to converting all that food into delicious meals in just a couple hours each week. And if you're preserving food from the farmer's market, I'm going to help you choose the best produce as well. The system is cyclical, of course, so I'm also going to show you how to create a harvest plan for your next growing season that helps you grow exactly what you want to preserve for the off season. It's going to help you keep a constant supply of all your favorites so you can make the recipes you want straight from your garden. Of course, I'm going to be sharing all the pro tips for each of the preservation techniques: curing, dehydrating, drying, freezing, fermenting, quick pickling, and canning. I've got 101 exciting recipes for you to try, including strawberry balsamic basil jam without any added sugar, or how about a rosemary lemongrass sauerkraut, or maybe you're someone who just needs more plant-based recipes for dinner. I'll share my famous mac and cheese that's made from all your favorite cured root vegetables. Your family will be shocked there's no dairy in this. And I've got new twists on all the old favorites. I've got multiple ideas for each of those vegetables that you have in abundance. And the best part of the course is that you're going to learn my secrets of making creative and delicious recipes and meals from the garden freshness, so you can transform whatever is coming out of your garden into something special for your taste buds. So there's a simple equation for delicious recipes, and once you learn it, you're going to be shocked how many fun and creative answers there are to what's for dinner.
So if that sounds exciting to you, I would love to invite you to my new class, the Vegetable Garden Storage and Preservation System. I'm going to show you everything that I do and exactly how I do it. And it's going to be so much fun. I've been making a total mess out of the kitchen, a delicious mess. My housemates love me right now because I've been producing so much food each and every week. And you're going to learn all about it. You're going to learn tons of amazing recipes and variations on recipes for some of those picky eaters. So here's what you need to do. What you do is you click on the button below this video, the Register Now button. You're going to be taken to the order form, our secure order form. Maybe you've already been there to see what's included in the course. You're going to enter in all those details and you're going to hit submit. And when you register, when you hit that submit button, you're going to be immediately taken to a welcome screen. And it's going to tell you what you need to do to get started with the class. And there's already your first homework assignment waiting for you there. So I'm ready for you. And we're going to get started right away. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about the value of this class. So how many times have you opened up your refrigerator only to be disappointed that you left something that you harvested from your garden and it went bad in the bottom of your refrigerator? Or let's say, you went to the grocery store and you bought something and it went bad in your refrigerator. It's easy for things to get lost in the process and for all of that food that we value, that we love, that fresh food, to not make it onto our dinner plates. It's so normal. And if that's you, don't feel bad about it because it happens to everybody. But what the real value here is that if you have a system in place, you're going to find that that rarely or never happens to you ever again. So that means you're going to save on your groceries because the food that sometimes gets thrown away, you're going to find a use for it. Now, I want as many people as possible to take full advantage of my vegetable storage and preservation system as possible, because it has transformed my life and made my life so much easier and so full of amazing, delicious food. And I want that for you. This week only, the class is going to be 50% off. So you want to get yourself enrolled if this sounds good to you. I'm opening enrollment today for this class. I'm super excited. I'd love to have you on board. And I'm closing down registration on Friday because we're going to get started on Saturday, and all my efforts are going to go towards supporting those students. So if you are interested in the course, you should just go ahead and register now before you forget. You can get started. Some of the course materials, your first assignment is waiting for you. So how long have you been trying to figure out all this on your own? You know, you've got your garden to manage and making sure that everything is growing properly, and you're trying to find time to do that, and you're trying to find time to make sure that all that food makes it onto your dinner plate as well, and you're trying to come up with creative recipes. So how long have you been managing all of that on your own? Don't you suppose that it might be easier if you had a guide and a mentor that was helping you along the way? And I would love to be that guide. I love this stuff. This is one of my favorite things in the world, and I would love to share it with you. So that's what's available to you here now. Go ahead, click the Register Now button, and you can immediately get started with the class. And I look forward to seeing you on the inside. I look forward to seeing photos of your pantry lined with beautifully preserved foods.